Paschall. We're Slaggy on Twitch, and we're going to be streaming live on Lichess tonight. And our handle is Sparklehorse on Lichess. So, welcome everybody that tunes in from both my previous viewers and from Lichess. We just started a live stream here for a couple hours. I think maybe about 2.5 hours we're going to stream both rapid or classical and some Blitz, kind of mixing in the two. But I know a lot of streamers play really fast time controls like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes and bullet, and I mean, I don't think that's entertaining, but I don't think it's that instructive. So I'm going to try to do longer games, nothing really long, but we're going to try to get like long Blitz and shorter rapid sort of time controls. Let's try to jump in there and get a game. I've got one guy here looking for a 15-minute. Let's try to get a 15-minute game. It plays pretty fast, actually. I'm playing Zvonimir 1932. And for those of you who maybe are watching me for the first time, I'm an international master originally from the United States. I've been living in Hungary for over 10 years, and I'm streaming from there in Budapest. I'm a professional chess and poker player, and recently in the last month have started streaming online. This is an unusual position. It's similar to... It sort of reminds me of a Moscow variation with queen takes d4 with the bishop on b5, but quite different. You know, obviously the queen's not on d4. So white moving really fast. And here, I don't know. I don't think I've ever had this exact position probably in my life. But it should be good for black. I've got an exchange of pieces, which helps relieve the cramp in the position a little bit. And secondly, white has traded on c6, which should increase black's control in the center. Alright, now we have various options here. If you look at the position, the one thing that white could do, which is typical in the dragon and in the 11-fish dragon and sometimes in other lines, more infrequently in the Scheveningen, would be to kind of break black's pawn structure with e5 in the center. So if I do go with the g6 route especially, I've got to be kind of careful about e5 because it would sort of sever my pawn structure in half if he gets that push in. It depends on the pieces and the piece configurations. Obviously it might give me a lot of activity by like letting my pieces on the loose. So it really depends on the situation. I'm going to go with the dragon formation. But my king is safest with the fianchetto on the king side. If I have a choice, like when I play kind of classical lines of the Sicilian, I'll usually try to get into a dragon if I can. I'm not that up on any kind of sharp lines of the dragon with mutual opposite side castling. You have to forgive me, people. My voice is a little bit hoarse today. Alright, bishop e3. It's sort of tempting me to play knight g4, but I'm not sure that move is necessarily beneficial here. It might be. I have to analyze this a little bit. If I play knight g4, it looks interesting. My knight could go to e5 and c4 in some lines. If he plays bishop g5, though, I guess that's the important question. And what do I want to do there? Do I want to play h6 and g5 and weaken my king side? Probably not. So I think we're going to wait on knight g4. Speaking of Scheveningen, one of our first viewers is Scheveningen. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I think that's what you're trying for. f3, he doesn't want any more knight g4. Which is fine. This is a kingside castle position, so I'm not afraid of getting mated like we would in the Yugoslav attack. As I mentioned earlier, e5, given the pawn formation with my pawn on b to c6, I'm a little bit wary about e5. It would be a situation where if he gets an e5 and like the d pawn's traded for the e pawn, we could end up with a bad structure on the queen side, whereas normally my pawn is on b7. That wouldn't be an issue. Like in the normal Sicilian structure, where my c6 pawn is on b7, e5 is really not often that strong, because in its dragon formation, because it would just trade off his strong pawn on e4. Alright, so I'm pretty analytical as far as I think most players playing this faster time control. So you guys, bear with me, be patient. I'm going to lose some time quite a bit, but I think that the point is that everybody learns something. Now here, rook b8 looks like a normal move. Rook e8, I might play sooner or later. e5 is one move you don't want to play necessarily because you block your dragon bishop on the long diagonal. However, if I could get in a rolling center like e5 and d5, I might consider playing that way. Now this is an interesting structure though, which piece configuration can be good for white. The bishop on d7 is kind of a questionable piece. I've had games with white where I've won in this kind of piece configuration, especially if he can trade the dark squared bishops. If he does something like queen d2, I'm going to trade. Mannered Monkey, welcome to the stream. Espresso Forever, it's a personal question, isn't it? Hi Bill, do you have cable or Wi-Fi? So it's cable. I have both. It's cable and I have Wi-Fi, but I'm not using the Wi-Fi now. I'm using straight up the cable with a landline. So rook e1. Alright, let's play queen c7. This is a pretty neutral move. And I just want to connect my rook, see what's up. I'm going to play rook e8 in response to queen d2. Black has flexibility with the pawn structure. I could play at any moment c5, d5, or e5, depending on circumstances. But one thing I don't want to allow is a trade of dark squared bishops here, which goes into a piece configuration where my white square bishop is like kind of a bad piece, and it doesn't really have a function in the structure. So everybody, if you haven't watched me before, please check out my YouTube channel. It's relatively new. Video chess training. I just started to create some independent and original content there. Last week I think I had two new videos, and I'm uploading a lot of streams, so it's also down below the stream if you want to check out my info. Now knight b3, this move I don't understand. Why would Zvonimir voluntarily want to withdraw his most active minor piece from the center? Is he looking for like controlling a5, or what's it about? I don't understand this retreat. Is he afraid I'm going to play c5? c5 is a double-edged move, and I'm not quite sure. It bothers me when people do things and I don't understand what the point is. That's the reason we analyze chess games, to understand, to learn to understand what people are trying to do. And when I don't understand the move, it's disturbing me a little bit. So knight b3 we don't understand, and sometimes that's a sign that you're missing something. So you have to be careful. And with knight b3, I really don't concretely understand. So let's see. Could just be a fear of c5, but I don't see why that's something to fear. c5 might sort of give him the d5 square. It's not clearly good for me to do that. Maybe he's afraid I would play d5. Maybe he's trying to stop d5. It seems like a defensive move. So anyway, welcome to the stream, everybody. I'm International Master William Paschall, and I'm streaming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. I'm going to play a5 here. I think this general position is one where the rook gets some expansion. The a5 pawn is a little tender, but it's well defended. I get the b4 square. Maybe I'll play rook eb8 and rook b4. So I think, first glance, I was happy with rook e8, but now the situation has changed a little bit, and I'd like to reposition my pieces here. Gotta watch out for e5, as a kind of pawn sacrifice could happen. Positional pawn sacrifice to get the c5 square for his pieces. I want to reposition my bishop on d7. As I mentioned, this piece is a huge question mark. It happens in the Rossalimo Sicilian sometimes, and I won a game with white years ago with this bad bishop. The white squared bishop for black is kind of funny piece. Lines in the Rossolimo Sicilian where white gives up the bishop on c6 and black plays d6. This kind of piece configuration can arise. So I'm looking for squares for my bishop on d7. I mean, another thing with a5, it could post itself on a6. I can play bishop e6, bishop c4, f4 now. That's very double-edged, and I think it's a mistake because I could play knight g4 now, and if bishop d4, I play e5. When he basically has to take on e5, and I take with a knight, it will radically change the position. But before I decide to do that, though, we should take a look at some other options. I mean, rook b4 is a very normal move here, putting pressure on the pawn on e4, and I think it deserves consideration. The other thing is that he could be setting up like e5, pawn takes pawn, bishop f4, skewering my rook on b8. But honestly, I wouldn't mind finding a situation where I could sack the exchange for a really good dragon bishop. My good friend Emil Solansi, who's an international master here, he's a dragon expert, and he calls it the Jolly Joker. The bishop on g7, when you can sacrifice a rook to create, like Larson did this a lot, a very, very strong, unopposed dragon or King's Indian or Benoni bishop on g7, say giving up a rook for the bishop on e3 to have like a rampaging dark squared bishop. Let's do this. We've got to just be practical. I'm absorbing too much time. This was a bad weekend for me. I went to a rapid tournament and I was very, very disappointed. I had a terrible result, but 2/3 of the bad result was due to time. So we had 2 winning positions where I basically missed something huge in time pressure. I like bishop d4 much better. If he plays bishop d4, he doesn't have to give up his bishop. So I think he needs to keep that. Now I don't even have to sack an exchange to get this beautiful bishop. I have to really be very appreciative. Okay, so bishop e6 looks pretty strong. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, it looks like it's almost forced for him to play rook a3 after bishop e6, rook a3, which would tie his rook up in an awkward position. Thanks for joining the stream. We got a lot of people. Really concentrated on the game, but I want to thank Mannered Monkey and Espresso Forever, a friend of mine, and Shevaninga, and everybody who's here. Locos Tacos. I think I look like a banana. That's what he said. What does that mean? I don't have a banana face. So, bishop e6. He can go back to d4, but I grab a pawn there. And I think that's good. This bishop is a piece that's a problem. If you guys listen to me, you can learn a lot. You don't call me banana, but I'll take that. I don't mind you make fun of my hair. Just don't insult the game. You just don't hurt the game, and it's cool. Knight d1. Wow, I didn't think about that. That's a passive defensive move. I mean, I thought rook a3 was awkward, but knight d1 is extremely awkward as well. So here we play rook b4, and he could play e5, but it looks really beneficial to me. I mean, I have some loose squares, but I think he's going to have trouble containing my bishops. Big time here. So I could see black even playing g5 if white plays e5. g5 is a kind of maniacal approach. But I have, yeah, g5 is interesting. e5, g5, pawn takes d6, pawn takes d6, pawn takes g5, bishop takes b3, white resigns because of the threat of bishop d4. So it's going to be very hard, for him to control it. Maybe he could play e5, but I think white is on the verge of being lost. So after knight g4, he can play bishop d4 and not give up his dark squared bishop. That's the best way to handle the situation.